Why is estimating software projects timelines so difficult? So, if you've worked on any large software project, you may have found that most of the targets are not often met. And in order to meet those targets, either the scope is significantly reduced or we expect to blow past the target. And that's really because when you're building something that never existed, while you're discovering their actual requirements or constraints and risks at the same time, it's going to be very difficult to give an exact target. It's going to be very difficult to say that this is exactly what we're going to do and when we're going to do it because you don't even know for certain that that is what's going to happen because you haven't done it before. So it's easier to say and give a target than to actually meet that target later. And unfortunately, a lot of teams are used to doing just that. And yes, some tasks are going to be very straightforward, especially if you've done them before. If there is some planned work or planned activity that you do daily, you can say, you can give a reasonable expectation that, hey, this will take this much time because you have calculated how long it took to do that in the past. And you have some historical reference to base that timeline and decision off of. But a lot of projects are going to require you to do research, going to require you to experiment. It's going to require you, especially if there are multiple integrations with other services, to go figure out how those things work and then bring back the results to see, hey, this is what we're going to build now, given the uh, assumptions that we have and the requirements that we have and the resources that we have available. That's not very straightforward, and that's not something that you can just give a timeline on or an accurate timeline on too easily. So I would say that even also one of the most important considerations that many estimates don't take in consideration is the organizational effort and the fact that you have to do change management whenever you're making a change or you're planning some type of change. You have to align that with the current business processes and the current people in place and the current technologies to make sure everything still works after your change. And then you have to document that change. And that documentation could be diagrams, it could be run books, it could be anything that is required to make sure that other people understand what is happening and you increase or decrease your bust factor risk. And then other things that could expand the timeline include requirements gathering, which could add weeks to a project because now you have to go have conversations with people and you have to get buy-in, you have to get alignment with people that have different schedules, they have different uh, priorities, they have different things that they're working on. But you, in order for you to move your part of the project forward, you have to make sure that you understand and have some alignment with that. So this is a very challenging part of technology service management and making sure that applications are released on time or development work is being done on time, as well as just making sure that any initiative or effort is actually getting the appropriate focus that it needs. A lot of the times, if you give a estimate, there's two ways to think about it. You can go through giving an estimate and kind of just give a tighter deadline for yourself and your team, and that can help put a fire under everyone's behind to get them moving faster. That can work. Still likely to blow past that timeline or that estimate, that ETA. Still likely to go blow past it, but sometimes having a tight deadline can get people to move a little bit faster. If you do give your team a more accurate or more a likely deadline that is a little bit farther out, a little bit more, gives you a little bit more cushion, there's a potential that people will end up dragging their feet until the last minute. Procrastination is real, and that will happen in a individual's life, but it will also happen in a team or an organization if you don't have some controls in place and some ways to keep people accountable to those timelines. But definitely, an important thing to remember with estimating that the easiest way to give an accurate estimate is to give estimates on the parts that you can own completely. Whenever you have a system that relies on other third parties, whether it could be a different team or a different organization completely, those projects are always going to require more time and more energy because you have to get alignment, you have to get buy-in, you have to have those conversations. And those conversations always require more cycles than you can expect because just syncing people up is difficult. Everyone has their own priorities and responsibilities. And again, it's easier to say, hey, I can do this amount of work in this much time because I have done it before. So that's the thing to focus on. If you can get enough reps inside of the operation or inside of the technology, inside of whatever the thing is that you're planning for, you can get enough reps to more accurately be able to say, I know this task will take this much time. And I know this task or this activity, this project will take this much energy, this many people. Usually the best way to give a more accurate estimate for that is to just have done it so many times that you can actually call on that experience and that wisdom to say, hey, I know the type of lift that this is. And that's more likely to give you a realistic timeline versus just guessing and thinking that you don't need to do the research. But builders should always plan thoroughly and be realistic about the things that they control and things that they cannot. You never want to give an estimate that is too far from what you can actually accomplish because whenever you blow past a deadline or a timeline, it's going to make it more difficult for that client or that team or that stakeholder to trust you in the future because you have messed up and it just makes that relationship a little bit more difficult. So always focus on increasing the accuracy of those estimates to make sure that everyone is on the same page about what can actually be accomplished with the time available.